right, let's go ahead and regroup. I'll introduce myself. My name is Dan Young. I run Edward Jones' office in Olympia on the west side, kind of on Auto Mall. And so what I'll start with here is we get into our finance committee. I'm just going to ask everyone to give us their name, their job title, where they work, and how long they've been in that industry. All right.
Okay. My name is Rocco Turpin. I am a State Farm agent. My office is in West Olympia, and I've been in the industry for 7 years.
So my name is Julie Randich. I am a financial advisor with Edward Jones. My office is actually in Montesano. For any of you that don't know that, it's in Grace Harbor on the way to the beach. I do live in Thurston County, though, and I have been in the industry for 2 years.
All right, I'm Casey Kilborn. I'm with Olympia Federal Savings. I'm our retail banking manager. So we have 8 branches, and I oversee those 8 branches. I've been in the banking industry for 13 years.
Awesome, thank you. So let's go into how you all got started into your career. Go ahead and give me any background careers that you had, any career changes, and just what brought you into where you're at today.
Yeah, I can start. So I started, just kind of went to community college and then decided I wanted to begin working. So I actually just got a job at a rental car agency. Worked for a rental car agency for 5 years. Had a friend that was in finance and lending and got into that. And then about 13 years ago, I got into retail banking. So I've been with 2 banks. I've been with the current bank that I'm at now for 8 years and grown with them. So started as a branch manager with that bank and then grown to my position that I'm at now.
So I worked in education. Let me back up. I did not go to college and started out in banking. And then when I had a family, decided education was going to be where the path I wanted to go. So I had more time off with my kids. I always worked on the administrative side of education in school buildings or in district office. And what I loved about that position was helping people. And so that was my previous, and I worked in alternative education, and I started kind of getting burned out, I'll be honest, after about 23, 24 years. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was approached by our financial advisor and said, I think you'd be really good at this, and I think you should look into it. So I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's why I made the change.
All right. I started out working in restaurants when I was going to school, and then I met a vendor and started working for a vendor at a restaurant. And then after about 6 years of doing that, I just was kind of burnt out of working for that vendor, going basically door to door, business to business, doing sales for that vendor. And I wanted to start building something for myself. And someone at State Farm had reached out to me and asked if I had ever considered being an agent and owning an agency. And so I started talking with the recruiter, and one thing led to another. Here I am.
So, thank you. So, first big question, any specific skills or traits or just characteristics about yourself that have really helped you excel in your specific industry? And would you say any of those skills or traits are a requirement for the industry that you're in?
Start with this one. For me, my main thing is communication and building relationships, and I think that's huge in the industry that I'm in. I have a really strong work ethic, which I think, as you heard from your previous panel, anyone that's trying to start a business, that is, you have to know that you're going to be working hard, you're going to be putting in long days, and you're going to have bumps in the roads, and you're going to hit times where you're where you're pushed backwards and you're feeling a little down. So I think communication, being creative, and being able to have some thick skin are some, for my industry, are really important. Conflict resolution, being able to have conversations when people are unhappy or if they're disagreeing, being able to stay calm in those situations. Yes, I think a degree is super important. I started later in life, and because of my past work history, my employer looked at my work history versus a degree. But starting out, yes, I think it's important. It's not possibly required, but I think it's important to have that.
Yeah, I mean, for banking and where we're at, I think specific skills that you need are conflict resolution, customer service, the desire and willingness to help people. And some analytical math skills are always helpful as well, to be able to quickly calculate information depending on the role that you have within the industry. So having some of those things is important. I think the biggest thing to me would be a willingness to learn and be coachable and be teachable within whatever job and role you're in. So I can train for skill. We can help people with learning the systems and learning the procedures. But if you have to have that willingness to be able to do it and to be very coachable and willing to learn to be able to do that. So for as far as the degrees required, again, it depends on the role that you're looking at. Entry-level positions in banking don't necessarily require a degree. We hire interns from college. We hire people right out of high school. But if you get up the ladder and you're trying to get into it from a higher position, then you may very well need a degree to do that.
All right, Dan. Well, I think specific skills mainly are just that conflict resolution and communication. Being able to have hard conversations that you dread having, you don't want to have, you kind of try to put them off. If you can get good at having those up front and have them quickly, that's really the skill, I think, that translates across all business. And I know when I'm looking to hire someone, that's definitely a skill that I am trying to hire to. You don't necessarily have to have a degree to do what I do. There's different companies that you can work with that will require it, but there's some that don't. I think it helps just to have that well-rounded ability to be able to relate with different people. As you're getting your degree, you take different classes, and you learn different things that help you have conversations with people and build relationships with them. So,
great. Thank you, Rocco. I'm sorry about that. So let's talk about a typical day at the job. And I know for me personally, when you're going through this transformation of life where all you know is being a student at this point, all of a sudden you're going to full-time work. It's a tough transition. And one question that I always came back to was, well, what does this job even look like? So could each of you explain to me just a typical day at your job? What activities are you doing, and how much of those activities or how much of your day is spent due to someone else determining what that will look like, or something that's self-driven by you?
yeah, I can start out. Thank you, Dan, for giving me a chance here. My typical day, usually when I get to the office, I meet with the team every morning and talk about what they have going on, give them an opportunity to ask me questions or to just voice concerns or things that they're happy about. We usually talk about wins from the previous day. And then from there, basically, I follow my schedule, and my Outlook calendar basically rules my life. And so, but I'm pretty protective about that. So, you asked how much of my day is self-driven, and I would say 100% of my day is self-driven. I make time for clients. I make time to work on the business. During the previous presentation, they talked a little bit about working on the business versus working in the business. And so that's a really important balance that as you want to grow, that you need to keep track of. And so I just split my time between working on the business, such as how am I incentivizing my team, how am I coaching them, and then working in the business is meeting with clients, finding new prospects to try and bring in, and then of course the number one reason I got into this business is for my free time and my ability to schedule things that I want to do. And so I always have something on the calendar every day that's kind of a selfish thing for me, either educating myself on new regulations that are affecting my business, or just going to the gym, or meeting with friends like Dan for coffee and talking about business. So
fun is looking up your regulations. That was intriguing to me.
it can be fun.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about my day-to-day. Today. So remember, I've only been in my business for 2 years. And so I feel like I'm a little bit like Kenan, where you, instead of a coffee shop, you might be able to find a financial advisor or a bank, maybe on every corner. So what do we do to set ourselves apart or to create our business? So for example, this morning, I mentioned I live in Thurston County. So I have been in Grace Harbor County at a meeting at 8 a.m. this morning for networking, to meet with other business owners, to get to know them, and talk a little bit about our businesses and what we have to offer. I then drove up here. I will stay here till about 2 o'clock. I have a client appointment in my office, and this gentleman, to adjust, meeting around his time and his busy schedule with work. So I'm heading back to meet with him. I'll make some client appointments, look at my calendar, and then I have a client appointment at 6:15 in Olympia. So I'm very self-driven. My whole day is self-driven. What I need to work on, because I am very customer service oriented and I'm very much, no is hard for me. I like to do a lot of things. I'm very people driven as well. So for me to be in an office without people doesn't drive me, and it also doesn't build my business. So with that though, I do have to find time in my life that I schedule to make sure I'm in my office and I am getting the things that are done day to day. Because for me, being out and about and seeing people is really what I enjoy most about my job and meeting with clients. So, and then I also do my best to find something in the day that creates some fun for me as well.
So for the bank and for me in my role, so I start in my cell phone is hopefully somewhere around in the room here. It usually goes off at like 6:30 in the morning, depending on the day of the week with someone. So I have 9 direct reports, and I have 52 people, I think, that directly or indirectly report to me. So in the morning, my cell phone's going off and like someone's calling in sick, and then I have to kind of shuffle between our 8 branches where people will go for the day. And I have like a whole Excel grid, color-coded, only certain colors because we have some colorblind people at my office, so I have to color-code it in certain colors to make sure that they can all see. And then you go into the office, have some meetings in the morning, make sure that all of our branches are staffed and okay to go, and then basically meetings throughout the day, either with customers or helping and assisting our managers and the people that directly report to me to give them whatever they need, right? So figuring out if that could be that someone had some fraud on their debit card one day. It could be that someone's angry about something that happened. It could be that someone had a great experience and they want to call the boss and tell them about it. It could be one of a million different things. And then my job oversees bank growth. So for you, banking is probably for you guys like tapping your phone on something for the most part. But bank growth, like trying to grow deposits and grow loans. So that's how banks kind of operate, right, in a very general sense. And so I try to help grow deposits and grow loans for the bank, and then also grow our people. So trying to manage all those different things, and then also stay in compliance, to Rocco's point, staying in compliance with all the banking regulations and all the ever-changing landscape that has in today's environment is challenging. So I guess there is no typical day at my job, and I've been actually thinking a lot about like my pie chart of how much time I spend on tasks every day. And then I think about like the pie chart that I actually have, the pie chart that like I dream about, and where kind of that Venn diagram meets of those things. And some days they're totally far apart, and some days they have a lot of they sync up very well. So it just kind of depends on the day. But every day is unique and a challenge and presents opportunities for us.
Awesome. So pattern there, I'm sure you all recognized. Obviously, we have a couple different structures sort of here, two more so self-employment to a level, and then one more on the corporate side. And Still, regardless, you can see there is a lot of flexibility, a lot of movement, a lot of change. It's not like you're a business owner or you're working for the man. Not at all. I think Lacey would probably testify to that. Every day is going to be different. You're going to be thrown new challenges. You are going to be challenged. And you're not going to get bored doing the same thing over and over again. So next question here, let's talk about the best and the worst. If each of you could go through just what do you love about your job and what do you not love about it?
So, yeah, I mean, I love the people. And so, you know, we talk at our bank, we talk a lot about our values, and the bank's been around 117 years. And so we talk a lot about our values, and our people are our most important asset. And so I love the people that I work with. I love my boss. I love all my managers. I took all of our managers to a Mariners game a couple weeks ago, and was able to celebrate some time away from the office with them, and just really trying to help people grow in their role. As a manager and as a leader, I think of my role and what I've said for many years in management is I want to make my people better than I could ever be. And that's my goal every day coming into it is how can I make them better than I could ever be and help them grow. What I enjoy least is the compliance. I hate compliance. I hate like the paperwork of it. I try to like make someone else do that side of my job because that's not a strength of mine. That's I think that finding, and you've heard it I think echoed through the presentations, is finding something that brings you joy and doing it as much as possible.
Okay, so what I enjoy most about my job is the flexibility and relationships and goal setting with my clients so that they can meet whatever dream or goal that they're looking towards, whether that be vacation, whether it be protecting their family, their retirement. But as I mentioned, I worked in a school district for 23 years, and I with this job, I never left the building. Sometimes I didn't even know if it was day into night, depending on the time of year, where now I'm out and about and I'm meeting and seeing people, and I love that piece about my job, and I love my clients. What do I enjoy least is prospecting, going out and finding my clients, going out and, selling myself. It's not a strength of mine. What you see as me here is what you're going to see in me in the community. And that's probably been the biggest struggle for me. I just want, everyone to love me and just come to me, but you got to work it, and you have to have confidence and know your business. And so I would say prospecting is the least amount. And as much as I'm gone from home, my kids are grown and I have a really great husband, but I'm 12 or 14 hours a day most days trying to build my business at this point. So.
All right. What I enjoy most, I think, is the flexibility, but also I really enjoy the prospecting and growing my business. I kind of see it as a competition or a fight, and when I win and I get that client, there's not a better feeling in the world to me than getting that person's trust and providing that value for them, whatever value it is. That's kind of the fun part, is figuring out what I can bring to the table to make that person want to do business with me. The part that I enjoy the least is definitely the paperwork. That's not my natural personality type, to be super organized and to have everything, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. But thankfully I can hire someone to do that. So.
Great, thank you all. So career development. For a lot of people that's extremely important, whether you're going to work for a company where you just want to know what's next, right? What can you strive for in your career? Is there anything that you all have done to move forward in your career development? And are there opportunities for you to move up in your career?
Go ahead and start. So I think we use this a lot about being a lifelong learner, but I'm all about reading books. I'm about reaching out to my colleagues to just better myself. And you don't just start a career and then don't continue to evolve with it, right? You become stagnant. You maybe decide you don't like the job. So you got to stay we have to stay up on compliance, the new rules that are coming along. So, and So those are the things right now, just being 2 years in, that I have been working towards.
With development, as far as my role is, it's really just self-development and being a better leader, being a better coach for my team. And I've really learned that everyone is different, and my idea of being a good leader for this person isn't the same as that person. And so developing different skills for different people is really where my career development is. I own my business, and so there isn't really another ladder there isn't anywhere else more to go. It's just to create a bigger business. And so what that looks like for me is just self-development.
So I think for banking, right, specifically, I think about and I think of a banking like a hub and spoke model, right, where the retail branches that you see out in the community, you see banks everywhere, right, and credit unions, financial institutions. You see that's kind of the hub of like the bank, and then you have about like a million different spokes that can go off it, from loans to operations to processing to compliance to marketing to credit card servicing to merchant services to cash management to treasury services to financial advising through the bank to all these other different things that banks do that maybe you don't see when you walk in and make a deposit or a withdrawal with a teller or a banker. So I think career development can look many different ways in the banking world, where we get people in at entry-level positions very often. I have spots now. We're hiring people, and we've brought people in that are started this week, and they'll start as tellers. And we have many people. One of the great stories of the bank is our previous president, Lori Drummond, who retired about a year ago. She began her career as a receptionist at the bank and ended her career as the president of the bank. And served 38 years with the bank. So, that's the kind of growth and mobility that you have, and served in many different departments throughout that. So, the career development opportunities are many. And for me specifically, I've been able to do training through different banker associations. I'm not a great reader. I'll read like an article, and that's about the maximum that I can read. I much more prefer like a podcast to gain my knowledge and learn things. To Julie's point, just always looking for things to better yourself and improve and learn to be able to stay up to date, because I think we'd all agree that customers are also become very savvy and very knowledgeable from their own research and their own sourcing. So if you're not staying up to date, then they're going to come in and they're going to question you on some things. And if you're not knowledgeable on those things, then they may question the relationship that they have with you.
Awesome. So it sounds like to me that the pushing forward with your career advancing, it's not really so much about getting master's degrees, even designations, you could argue. It's really self-development with the roles, which is more people-facing management roles. There's a little bit of curveball here, but I'm an audiobooks person too. I'm with the Casey. I'll read articles all day, I'll listen to audiobooks, but don't put me in front of a book. Is there any, I guess, books that you've either listened to or read, or articles that have really helped excel your career, just for that self-development piece and becoming a better version of yourself?
I go to TED Talks often for stuff like that, and I really enjoy Simon Sinek and his talks and the stuff that he's done. I actually heard I was at a conference in June in Las Vegas, and I heard a guy named Sean Aker talk, and he has a PhD in like happiness, and has written a book on like the pursuit of happiness, and it's like an Ivy League, like Harvard or Yale, I can't remember which one, but he's written a book on the pursuit of happiness and how happiness can help your life, and that's really impacted me recently in things that I've read.
I also do like podcasts, so mine's going to be a little bit different. So I've been, financial advising started out to be quite a bit of man's world, and been moving more into being a little more diverse with women joining. And so trying to to speak the same language, not necessarily with my clients, but speak the same language with my colleagues. And so I've been listening to a podcast. It's called FemX, and it is a woman advisor who very respectful of all men and women in the industry, but really gives me some ideas about how we speak a different language. She refers to men as the penguins and women as the peacocks in this, and just how we try to merge and talk about. And so for me, it's been helpful because company Edward Jones is amazing. We have great mentors, but being able to speak the same language, I'm in an area with 9 men. I'm the only woman at this point. And so being able in that, and not in my whole region, but just in my county. And so that's been super helpful for me. Along with, there's a storytelling book, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's really great. It's just little short stories. And I think for any industry that you're going into, we all relate to stories, a story of maybe something that happened with a client or a personal story. And I think that's also helpful when you're thinking about what business you want to go into. People relate to you really well when you can tell a story that they might resonate with.
I listen to podcasts as well, and Darren Daly is the one that I like to listen to as far as leadership. And then a book that I would say probably changed my life was No Excuses by Brian Tracy.
Awesome, thank you all. All right, long-term career goals. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm thinking, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, do you three have any specific goals that you're trying to target? And be as open as you want to about that, of course, but what does that look like for you? Where do you see yourself going forward in 5, 10 years?
Yeah, so a long-term goal that I have is to help people that work for me open their own office and be their own boss and own their own business. I'm a big sports fan, and if you look at very successful coaches like Pete Carroll or Nick Saban, you look at them and you look at how many of their coordinators or assistant coaches have gone on to have a successful coaching career. In my mind, when I look back at the end of my career, if I've helped 5 to 10 people open their own business and change their life through some coaching of mine and giving them encouragement, then that will be success.
So mine's very similar to Rocco's. I want to get to a point where my business, I'm still seeing my clients and my business is running, but I want to start mentoring in 2 areas. One, with new financial advisors that are coming in, no matter their age, and along with young adults who are, have questions about their finances, and they just want a safe space that they can ask questions, get answers, and know that it doesn't cost them anything to ask questions, but to start planning for their future at a very young age. So I'd love to get my business to sustainability and be able to do some more mentorship and kind of feed some of the passions that I have along with running my business.
For me, I think it's just continuing to find things that bring me joy in my career, and banking is transforming. I mean, I would probably, show of hands of who's been in a bank, like their bank, in the last 6 months to a year, probably not a lot of hands go up in this room, because if I didn't work in a bank, I would never go into a bank, and I think that most people don't go into banks as much. So looking at how that evolves and how our industry evolves and how that impacts our roles is something that will be very interesting to see over the next 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely. I'm sure you all noticed there's nothing about salaries, making more money, more time off. And I know these 3 people individually decently well. They're not selfish people, they're good people, and they're also client-facing, problem-solving people. And so you can kind of get the sense there. It's really, I think they're perfect for their industries because they care about people, they want to make a difference, they want to help, and it's not about the money. So I think that's a neat theme of the 3 of these folks on the panel today. So let's say we're going back to age 18, way back when, a little longer for some of us. Is there? Sorry. I had so much hair. I had frosted tips, sun in, so hair. So Casey and I worked together years back. My
Still didn't have any hair then
so
either.
I can make fun of them. I'm losing my hair too. It's okay. Go back to 18. Anything you would do differently that could have helped you in your career to just prepare a little bit better that everyone today could be doing if they're looking at a career in the financial industry?
I mean, yes, I would say. And I think that this might be a theme, and stealing some of these guys' thunder too. But I'm just starting sooner, right? And looking at trying to figure out where you want to be, and doing a lot of research into the company that you want to be at, and where you want to go. So I do a lot of interviews for entry-level positions and for other positions for the bank. And one of the first questions we always ask is, tell us what you know about the bank. And it always amazes me when people say, I don't know. I saw you guys at a job fair and I put in the application online. So to me, if you took the time to do that, then you would also then take the time to go to our website and research and click around for 10 minutes and maybe bring a couple things too, because that shows the employer that you're very interested. That was a little soapbox tangent. But I guess that's what I would do differently, though, is I would have done more research on where I want to be able to understand the different industries, understand different banks. I was at a different bank before that was a large bank that didn't bring me happiness and joy, and now I'm here and it does. So I wish I would have known those things earlier and done more research and understanding on that.
So for me, I'm going to pivot a little bit. I would say at 18, it's really hard to know what you want to do in life. And so if I could go back, I would have gotten my degree and had more confidence in the abilities that I had, and maybe been more thoughtful. Instead of just thinking about getting a job, I think I would have been more thoughtful about what I really want to do. However, I love the path that I've taken, because I don't think that I would be here today if I didn't start where I did, just in education and building my skills and loving my job. I think the one thing I would say to all of you is you don't know what you enjoy or what you don't enjoy until you try something. So if you try something and you think it's what you're going to love to do and it ends up not being that, don't be hesitant to change and do something different. I was 54 when I went into a different career, because the career that I had and I loved, I decided was no longer for me. And so don't be hesitant in life. Maybe what you want to do at 18 isn't necessarily what you're going to want to do at 30, at 40, at 50. I'm not saying change jobs all the time. I'm just saying don't stay in something that doesn't feed who you are, and you're not. We spend a lot of time at work. Be excited about going to work.
Yeah, I would say I would have started sooner. I think I would have faced my fear sooner and had more confidence in myself that I had the ability to do what I wanted to do. And because of my age, that wasn't a barrier, as much of a barrier as I was making it when I was young. And, if you are willing to work hard, it doesn't matter your age. And like she said, if you don't try it, you'll never know whether it's for you or not. So whatever's stopping you from trying it, realize you have a lot of time. So if you discover that it's not what you like, there's plenty of time to start over.
Awesome. And Julie, you played right into the next question. How did you know? So this, I think, is actually a really important question to look at. I'll give my input in a bit. Are there any regrettable career decisions, or even non-regrettable but poor career decisions that you made that ultimately ended up giving you an advantage for where you're at today?
I don't.
So what I'm talking about here
Yeah.
is really looking at the skills that you developed from past careers. Did you work a job, Casey mentioned this, that you maybe didn't love, but it gave you some skills that you needed to have?
So I think, I relate maybe things back to some interviews that I do, because I've done a lot of them recently, what's something that we learn from our failures more than our successes, something you failed at and learn from, and how do you take that? So I think that there has been a few times where I've applied for promotions at different organizations and did not receive them, and at the time it felt really hard and really like, man, this place doesn't really value what I'm doing, and then it turns out that in 6 to 12 months you get some feedback that from the people that interviewed you, and I asked for that feedback and I got it, and was able to improve on the things that they had recommended and talked about. And then was able to move forward in my career that way. I also think, just being able to I think that Rocco kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, be able to be comfortable having really difficult conversations with people earlier on. And so I think that, as a manager and a leader, I'm writing annual reviews and mid-year reviews. I remember getting feedback from my bosses before that my reviews were very just full of fluff and nice stuff and not maybe necessarily hitting on challenges that people were having, and I've really tried to refine that, have really challenging conversations with my people. But in order to be able to do that as a leader, you have to then also invest in them. And I heard the owner of the Ebony Ivory up here talking about how his people that quit came back because he asked them about their day. And I think that's part of it. You have to build that trust as a leader with your people to be able to have those tough conversations. If you just walk in and you're a jerk to everybody all the time, they're not going to respond to that. They aren't going to then take your feedback and criticism very well. But if you have that relationship and they know that you care enough to then be able to give that feedback, and they know that you're coming from a place of like, I want you to be better, so I'm giving this to you, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. I think the experience piece is something that held me back for a long time, using that as an excuse to not get into my field because I didn't have certain experience. It's something that I look back on and regret a little bit, because experience I did have was a lot of social experience, a lot of interaction with different clients, whether I was being a server and just taking their order meal, or if I was knocking on their business, trying to lease them some equipment. It wasn't insurance experience, but it was the social experience, and it was experience handling angry people, and so that didn't jive with what was listed on the requirements for the job, but it carried over.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and you might not know what that reason is at that point in time. And so when Dan just asked that question, thinking back on a pivotal moment, I always worked at the district office at the school district that I worked, and I really wanted to work in the accounting department, and I wanted to be the business director, and I applied for the position, and I didn't even get an interview, and it was very devastating to me at that point. And then about a year later, I was asked by one of our principals to help start a school, and there were 4 of us. And that really, if I look back, was a pivotal moment for me. It really gave me the skills and the confidence to do what I'm doing now. Because at that point, we were an alternative school, and we really needed families to come in. That wasn't just a neighborhood school. So it wasn't like they just were going to come to our door. And then building relationships and being honest and having integrity and showing up every day for them, being able to answer questions. It was a homeschooling program and when online was just getting started. And so when I look back, that's really the job that I never even envisioned in a career path for me, but it was pivotal to get to where I am today and to feel like I have the skills to build my business the way I want to today.
Great, thank you all. So let's go ahead and open it up for questions.
So my question is, it's kind of about how, like, as a teenager with the first job, like, it makes you want to spend all your money. So how would you recommend, like, focusing on saving that?
Create a budget first thing, right? So to me, there's actually we offer and I teach some financial education classes about budgeting, credit, and protecting yourself from identity theft. So the first thing is creating a budget. So most banks that you would bank at or credit unions would have an app that if you download the app, most of them now have features where it actually will tell you how much you're spending on each category. It'll categorize your spending for you automatically, and then it will tell you where those breakdowns are at the bottom. So you can then see like, okay, my income is this, and my expenses are this, and 47% of my expenses go to, like coffee every single month. So I should probably, what can I do to change that? That's actually me, and now I make coffee at home. So I've tried to adjust that myself. But that'd be step one, right? Is create a budget for yourself and understand what you're making and how much you need to pay your bills first, and then be able to enjoy the rest of that.
Piggyback on that, creating that budget, making sure you're living within your means. Make sure that what your earnings are, your expenses are not more. Secondly, if your employer offers any type of retirement plan or any type of, I'm just going to start with retirement plan, and they give you any matching, you get up to the amount that they're going to match. That is free money, okay? So it doesn't matter how, and it's pre-taxed, and once it's out of your check and you don't get it, you're not going to notice it's even gone. Let it, the earlier and the younger you start, the better that's going to be for you. And then secondly, meet with somebody that you trust. Go to a bank, go to your parent, go to a family, go to a teacher, come to a financial advisor. Just ask questions. What does it look like? And I'll give a story just of my husband. We were raising kids. Every time he got a raise, he took that raise and he put it into his retirement. And I remember going, oh my gosh, we're raising kids. This is so hard. Well, I'm appreciative that he did that, because it was less coffee that I probably would have bought, or maybe I wouldn't have gotten my nails done, or whatever it might have been. So just be thoughtful about your budget, but budget is the first start.
Yeah, I would say discipline is really the most important thing, because you can have all the apps and all the tools and all the budgets in the world, but if you're not disciplined enough to stick to them, then it really doesn't matter. And so when you're at the store and you're like, I really want that. If there isn't a part of you that says, but I also want to buy a house, so I need to save that money, or if you just don't have the self-discipline to say, nope, I can't afford it, I'm not going to do it, I've already spent my $300 this month on coffee, then
set your goals and find someone to hold you accountable.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Would you guys recommend job hopping, and when would it be most beneficial for you?
Yeah, I always grew up, my dad did the same thing for 35 years, and he was rewarded for that by being able to retire when he was 55. But growing up, I've seen a lot of people my age and my friends hop around in different careers, and I don't think it's as bad as what it used to be. But if you I think it's a really good way to find out that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and to appreciate what you have. And so much of, I think, people's mindset is, I have to have a good career to be happy, but it's just as much about what you do when you punch out, what you do spending your time after work that makes you happy with what you're doing.
And I would piggyback on, as I mentioned, I was in a career for a long time, and then I decided I needed to do something different. So don't stay in a career that you're unhappy. If you're going to job hop, don't just do it for money. Make sure that you're going to improve your skills, that you're doing something different that's going to better you for wherever you're moving towards. But find financial security, but don't find money that's just driving you, because that will burn out, and you need a passion to go to work every day, especially when you're going to be doing it for a very long time. So I would encourage you, if you're going to job hop, why are your reasons? What are your pros and your cons of why you're job hopping? What is the reason? And don't, just because you're unhappy one day, with something that happened, write it out a little bit. What are you going to learn from that? Because it's not, grass isn't going to always be greener.
And I guess I would just add on from an application perspective, when you're applying for different jobs, just know that that's a question that's on every application in any employer in the world. You can tell them about your last 3 positions and why you left. So being able to speak to, right, when I look at a resume, if I see that you have 4 jobs in a year, I'm going to have questions, right? I'll still, if you have the skills, right, and then it shows progression, then let's interview and let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation, but just be prepared to be able to speak to that.
Any recommendations on how to learn financial literacy, covering all topics while in high school if your school doesn't offer a class on it?
Call my bank and we can come to your school and do it. We actually, that's something I personally am very passionate about, and we're working with one school district now, and I don't know what school district you're in, but we're working with one school district now to develop education and get into classrooms, and then we're going into others as well. So, we actually have pre-prepared education for all that, and we've delivered it to Boys and Girls Clubs, we've delivered to other organizations as well.
No question is dumb or is crazy. Ask questions. I love that they're going into schools. I know that Dan and I mean, we would always come in and be a speaker anywhere. And just anytime you can ask questions or hear a conversation to learn about it, research it yourself.
I have a question for Brenda, because I used to work for 5 years as an independent financial advisor in Hong Kong before the pandemic, and I was a little bit successful because I earned enough money to raise my kid, but I was always awkward being at the position of mingle my personal life with my professional life. So my question is, how do you tackle that problem? I mean, sometimes you don't want to be the poison of the meeting or party.
So for me, as meaning like for when you're going to something on a personal level, if people ask me questions, I answer them, but I don't go in and talk about what I do. When I'm on a personal level, I don't want that to cross over where people say, "Oh my gosh, Julie's walking into a room and all she's going to do is talk about her job and try to get her to come to me." So I don't cross that line. However, if anyone has any questions, I'm always more than happy. Am I answering your question? Is that it is uncomfortable, and I do remember feeling that way. But just be authentic, be yourself, and who I am, like I said here today, is who I'm going to be if I'm at my friend's house. I'm just going to be really true and real, and just remember to be yourself and don't try to be somebody that you're not, because it will come through and it will not feel comfortable for you or for whoever's in front of you. Hopefully that answers.